Okay, we got some breaking news effective immediately handed down from the PWO president, Mr. Long, regarding the statuses of Mr. Husdon and Mr. Schmidt. But real quick before I go into that, couple people have been messaging me, inboxing me. You know, I got blocked by Kenny. You know, people know that. Some people thought there was more to the story that was a part of the story that we weren't telling or whatever. It's not even close to being true. Basically, I did a show with Harry. He got mad and he blocked me. Now, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because I just want you to look at it from my point of view, why what I was doing, I never thought anything wrong of it. And when he was like, oh, well, Pesci predicted it, it wasn't because I aligned myself with all of his enemies. It was because I knew there was going to be a moment when I was going to be asked that, you know, I got to get rid of this person or get rid of this guy just because, you know, you hate them. I got to have to share the same feelings, you know, with you because of, for whatever. But anyway, long story short, when July 14th, Kenny did a show when he got badges from Harry. Harry used to go by 30 Cokes. He made all those badges for Kenny. Him and Kenny were cool. You know what I mean? Harry could tell you why they had a problem in the past. You know, one of the first things Harry ever told me before we even knew each other was the story, what happened between them. But Kenny forgave him. You know, Harry rebuilt a relationship with Kenny's son. So everything's fine. Yeah, looking for my July 14th, everything's fine and dandy. I don't know how many days after he got those badges, but something happened. You'd have to ask Eve, where it was a show Kenny did, said something that got Eve mad enough to block Ken. Now, at this moment, him and 30 Cokes were still friends. It wasn't like he said this, Eve got upset, and then Harry got more angry. No, Eve blocked Kenny. That's part of the story I've never heard Kenny tell. He'll never find it either. You'll hear like this weird version of not the truth. And it's not me talking shit. It's just me clearing my name, because when he tells the story on his side, he makes it sound like I'm running around with stalkers. When the only black people that come on my channel that he blocked, he says all the black people come here, are Harry, Sheriff Whitehead, Donald Lord, and DJ Eric. Brian Danielson sneaks in. Me and Jake told him we're team JJ. You know what I mean? But the guy, he kind of comes in. So like I let him come in and go, oh, let's talk about Ken. I believe it was me last week who blocked Poochie. I wish somebody would have said Kenny that video when I told the reason why I hate the trolls is when they do talk shit about him, it's boring, same old, same old. And I was getting tired of hearing it. And it was like we were getting, you know, our jollies off. You know what I mean? I just had a couple, you know, Rome didn't get blocked by Ken. Rome blocked Kenny. You know that? Rome was pretty clear on why. There's some tape on it. You know what I mean? But I do the show with Harry where I'm confused was the only reason why Harry was blocked by Kenny this last time around wasn't because, you know, Harry relapsed and did whatever he did to get him angry the first time. No, he was explaining to Kenny why he blocked him. You know, he could probably be more clear than I could. Then Kenny blocked them. I remember Kenny showed me a part of that message. I saw a part of that message from Harry. There was not a malicious message. You know, because you got to remember, Harry just sent him these badges that Kenny was going to sell, try to make profit or whatever they were going to do with the money. So, fast forward, I was blocked by Harry for a while. You got to remember, Harry was mad at me for something that, you know, we found out it wasn't as what he thought it was. That's why I never got mad at him or blocked him like he blocked me, because I knew he was mad about something that really didn't happen. You know, this is when he was just meeting Jake. You know, he was kind of learning what Jake was then. You know, a lot of that rift was a Jake skit. we'll get Jake in a moment. You know, great guy. But when that happened, me and Eve still talked. And I always said what that showed me was, well, if I knew I did something, Eve wouldn't be the type to just not block me. You know what I mean? She doesn't owe me nothing. We don't have no kind of anything going on that she couldn't just get rid of me. But it was over something silly, I think we all knew, to where when you fast forward, it's like, wow, I was mad. You know, people were mad at me about probably the wrong things. But anyway, that's all that happened. You know, Kenny tells everyone Pesci is aligning himself with my stalkers, plural. I've never let Connor and the other fag fucking chill. I've never thought they were funny, ever. You know, every video could prove you that, from when they were making the Sexy Kenny Chow. You know what I mean? And same with DJ Eric. After him and Kenny had their falling out, I said, hey, I know what happened. You can't come in here bashing, because all people want to do is take those pictures and paint another picture. Like, some people come in my chat and they vent. You know what I mean? It's not a fucking, you know, sometimes Ken could say things to make people upset. Some people got blocked and they were upset about it. You know, I told myself when I found out I was blocked, I was like, you know what? Probably everybody that he blocks, probably the first thing they do is run to get a message to him, you know, defend themselves. I didn't say one message. This is what I said to myself. I go, Mike, if it was vice versa, someone was treating you the way I was treating him, how would you approach this person? Well, I would make sure that they were still around. You know what I mean? Like I said, I met some good people along the way that whether I did a podcast or not, I was going to still talk to some of these people. You know what I mean? Kenny makes it sound like I was a one-on-one rival with him. I wanted to go head-to-head. No, the couple times that he went live, that I happened to be live, one thing he always leaves out is that was a day where usually he was not expected to go, where usually he said, I'll see you in a couple days, and then just clicked on. Now, the one time I will admit, I was getting a kick out of it when I saw it was bugging him. And the only reason when I got a kick out of that is because I think about all the days he talked about working and, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's the worker. He's the main show. And I never said he wasn't. But why did it bother you so bad? You know me, I do games and shit. I'm a non-worker, like you said. We're usually talking about dumb shit anyway. But what bothered you that I was going live when you went live, considering I still was playing your stream on my stream and I donated to your stream? You know? It'd be one thing if I was taking cash. You know? And it wasn't like I was taking views, because Kenny only watches one thing at a time, and I understand that. Well, it's 2021. I'm looking at 3 screens. So he doesn't realize people can have us both on. And streamers work together. I'm not really a podcast. I look at myself more as a streamer. Sometimes when I do shows with topics, yeah, that's more of a podcast. You know? But Kenny's kind of made this rival story up. I just always knew his feelings, which he would always say, oh, I'm just working. It's all part of the show. Now he lets his feelings get to him. Like, when people say he's all about the money, no, he's not. He's definitely not. Because, like I said, me being blocked, if you were all about the money, you don't block me. That's for sure. You know, the fact that I was even blocked just because I did a 25-minute Punisher show, 25-hour, whatever, show with Harry about Punisher. You know, a guy who you forgave for whatever problems you guys had in the past. Another thing is, you know, I don't know this for a fact, but, you know, Harry and Eve told me, Harry still talks to Chris from time to time, Kenny's son. My thoughts are this. When you hear Kenny say this guy caused danger in my family, yeah, maybe there was something that happened once upon a time or whatever. But if Harry was the, werewolf of London, why would Chris, your son, have talked to him at all? There's a communication there. You'd have to ask, Harry about it. But that's why I always said, so I'm supposed to just block. Well, it wasn't block Harry. He was supposed to not do his show. He didn't really ask me to block him. But I like doing the Mr. Marvel show. And I had a lot of people saying, a lot of people were questioning me, oh, you're afraid to do this, you're afraid to do that. Nah, there's some people I wouldn't have brought on my show, sure, because I respected Kenny more than those people. But with Harry was around for a while. You know what I mean? Yeah, we had our little rift. I was blocked by him. But we were able to pan it out. So after I panned out our problem, I was supposed to re-hate him because you hated him because his girl blocked you? Not because he was relapsing. Unless there's something I'm missing, but I'm pretty sure he would have told that story. Kenny says he hurt my family. Sure, it probably caused some hurt, but it wasn't, it's not the pain and grief. Like, if people don't know what's going on and you just turned in, you would think I was a vigilante. Well, Pesci's got all the people I'd block. There's 3 guys in my chat. People know this, that he blocked over there. Maybe another one I'm thinking about, but Roman E blocked him. DJ Eric was out of blue. That was his #1 fan, a guy that called him dad. And I always said with DJ Eric, get well, DJ Eric. I know you're going through some shit. I always say with DJ Eric, sometimes he doesn't realize shit he's saying. Sometimes you got to be, he aligned himself with Alfred. I'm not a big Alfred fan. First of all, you got to look at it like this. Whether, when he did that shit to JJ, one of the reasons why you didn't hear me screaming like Jake and everyone is, well, if this guy called on his best friend, a company that I didn't even know existed, when guys call shit like that, it's like, there's something like that exists? You did that to your best friend? And we know JJ might be a lot of things, but I think he's the type of guy you could reach out to before you try to ruin his, I always said Brian was a little kooky. Now, he might sneak into my chat, but he hasn't brought up A, B, or C. I said, you can't bring up A, B, and C. He usually just comes in there and says hello or whatever. We never let Servap and them chill. Sometimes it's going to take, a minute or two. The other day, Kenny sent a message to Boston saying, look what this guy's doing. He had the fake Kenny Bolin in there. He's highlighting his comments. Kenny, you still don't know the fake Kenny Bolin is Schmidt? Like, we've told you. One time we've told Kenny who Schmidt is, and he still doesn't know. That's why I told you. And Boston tried to tell him. And he was going to block Boston, who was a fan of 10 years. Boston Spencer, a guy who's never said anything bad about Kenny. If anything, if somebody said something, goes, he's tried to defend the guy. This is a guy, Boston, who means no ill will against anybody. A nice guy. You know what I mean? I could tell he was kind of shocked when he saw that Kenny was ready to block him. Not because he took my side. He just said, hey, I'm not, I'm not going to block anybody. He kind of knows the situation a little bit. Harry and Eve, for you guys that don't know me, they made a video telling people if people are going to come in their chat and bring up Kenny in a fucked up way, they will be removed. This will not be because we are not with him anymore, we could all rejoice. We all went, at least they did, they went a different route with that. And God bless it, because it was really Kenny more poking the bear than them. I only heard them bring it up when they got brought up. And same thing with me. Usually I'm only bringing up Kenny on my show when I'm defending something like he thought about me or felt about me. But like I said, I always wanted to do the clip show. You know what I mean? Before you know it, I'm looking down at the chat, and there's a lot of people he doesn't get along with. These aren't like evil people. You know what I'm supposed to... Me and Rome were the original... When I started doing PWO, it was me, Rome, and Jake. You know, we were the three that decided, let's try to do a show. I was still learning the equipment. You know, and Rome's... Anybody that sees Rome's he's a real good guy. He's the type of guy that you'd rather have as a friend. And then when you start seeing some of those guys get pushed away, and some of the people that you don't even know that got pushed away that, inbox me. That was why I always said I might have to do some things by myself, Ken, only because if I'm going to be a man of my word and get you those followers, well, I think I could do more for you by myself. You know, when he came back from the streak and had me on a few times, there was one of the things, I kept getting Claymore. And sometimes I wasn't even saying anything to be Claymore for. There was times where I would have a good comeback or something. People would message me. He would say, oh, they don't like your comebacks. I remember Eve would message me before she even blocked Ken and said, keep doing what you're doing. When you stand up for yourself, you usually say something that, makes sense or usually kind of quiets him up. People tend to forget the day. I'll have to get this clip because this one's worth saving. There was something I said to Kenny when we came back, and he looked at me and he said, I don't know what to say to that. And he goes, in exact words, I've never been speechless after a comment. Now, I got to go find it. I know around the time it happened, but when we were coming back, when we were doing those shows, when he actually I went solo. Oh, Pitch said he would never go against me. Well, I didn't know, the farther I got along, and it's similar to Jake, the more comfortable Kenny got with me, it wasn't like my loyalty was valued or I got up more in the totem pole. If anything, I was more disposable because it felt like sometimes he felt like I was a threat. I kind of got a kick out of that, but I wasn't going to turn it into that. You know what I mean? That's why I said, don't let your feelings beat you, because I didn't let them beat me. There was many times I could easily just said, what the hell am I doing? Because there's things I said and I turned the other way. You know what I mean? And I always told them, hey, whoa. Anything that you've ever heard me say about you was not something bad. It was usually something true. Something you thought about me that wasn't necessarily true. But that's where we're going to leave it at. I think the most shocking thing is, I look at it from the other way around. I don't know how I got blocked in the whole... I probably would have pulled a guy like me to the side and had a one-on-one, which for some reason he always refused to do. He'd rather gather troll information, take their info, instead of maybe asking Schmidt here and there, asking Bob, even Bob's opinion, because I know Bob don't get into that shit. God bless him for doing that. You know what I mean? But when I got blocked by him, all I said to myself was, well, shit. If you blocked me, that I was just like, I'm trying to think if I could make a story up, what did you really do? You know what I mean? The just doing the Punisher show with Harry, that got you mad? You were just talking to the guy a couple months back. It's not like he showed up at your house with a Dr. Pepper and a knife, or he's, causing trouble. You know what I mean? He told people he was going to remove anybody that was trying to cause problems, and I agreed with that. And when you've been to prison a couple times, you don't really block people. You You have to learn to deal with people. Usually, like, if I got a problem with somebody, it usually, I mean, gets handled. Not like I'm a fighter. It's usually like, all right, let's get to the bottom of this. Okay, you block me or blah, 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 or brr. Now, if I was making some big-ass money with Kenny or something like that, and this guy's putting serious coin in my pocket, yeah, I would probably walk his line. But where I'm from, the man who pays says, the show I did had no entanglement with his, and nothing was said about him or published. I got rid of the number one talker about him that made it look like a lot of people were talking was just Pooch. And maybe when he blocked DJ Eric was upset for a couple days. But, dude, I mean, why would he not be? You know, DJ Eric could be emotional about a few things. You saw how he handled the shit when Jake was pushing his buttons. Said a couple things he regretted. But I never saw DJ Eric as like, okay, let's block him. You know what I mean? He's not going to be permitted to bash Ken. Like I said, in the past, he probably thinks I'm going to run back. And if he thinks I'm a bad guy, then he might have never even knew me. The question is, does he remember anything? That's what I said. I was like, whoa. I was like, if I could there's been other reasons to get rid of me besides that. But let's get to the other breaking news, the other hand in. But that's the end of that. I don't wish no ill will on Ken. Am I mad about it? More confused. Like, what? Where am I? How am I a threat? Like, even though I did a show with the guy, it's not like I had this like club started. You know what I mean? I'm always the one that said, yeah. I've always defended the shit you do. I just don't defend some of the shit you did to me or said or thought. You know, I care less about anything else. But at least the one thing that was anger is the way he tells the story. You know, you got people in there like some, Jazzy Jana, nice girls like that, Rory. Those are nice ladies. They used to, say hello here and there. They don't really follow the stories like that. So they just pop in, they hear Kenny go, yeah, well, Joe Pesci's decided to align himself with stalkers that hurt my family. Meanwhile, leaving out all the important parts, like Harry just made badges, we were just friends. The reason why we're not friends right now is I got mad when his girlfriend that he met on my show blocked me. And probably a part of Kenny probably thought that Harry had to do with it. And like I said, some people, and Harry's done it before too, some people let their feelings beat them. And there's a few people, Schmidt knows, that there has been times where my patience has been tested to limits to where no normal person would have been able to, like, I would say some shit, but I bit my tongue more times than not. Especially when I wasn't the problem. But for some reason, the more comfortable he got with me, it was just easy to make me look like this bad guy, the bad guy. You know, like I said, I didn't know how to use a computer a year ago. You should be happy, Ken should be happy that here he took a guy that's got multiple felonies. Normally he's just gambling, doing nothing. Or, nothing productive. Maybe talking about something I would want to do. But I came on your podcast, which is a podcast that's not likely to survive. You know what I mean? With money or not. And I was able to, beat the odds, survive, deal with, you know, the stuff that some people couldn't deal with you, but I was able to look past it to where, why would you want to get rid of me? All the things that people would say about you or whatever, none of that shit would bother me. You know what I mean? Well, let's get to the Teddy shit. Kenny, we wish you nothing but the best. Your picture still hangs in my kitchen. And then also another thing, when I was going on those shows, when I get cut off from the sound effects or whatever, I just wasn't having fun on there. Anybody that knows me from outside of the show, because it was said to me by like Anton, people that just know me from the streets that would watch casually, but, you know, they weren't commenters. They would always say, you know, there's a, you know, we like the show and everything, but you could definitely tell you're shielding a large side of you. You know what I mean? Like I always said, when I'd go on Kenny's, that was probably like 75% of me at my best. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times I'd be muted for long things, or I wouldn't even be able to get the good points in. And if it was a good point, well, we know what happens when you make, you know, the good points. I was just surprised. I never seen, usually when you meet a guy, after he sees you can be trusted, thrown through the ringer, you know, talk shit about, he was able to survive all that. Usually, eventually, they're like, yeah, this guy's good. Or, you know, you could talk to them about shit instead of just jumping to a conclusion. But as the great Jay Cutler would say, we wish you nothing but well in your future endeavors. On to the Rome statements. Okay, first on to Chris Schmidt. Now, people are wondering how the Schmidt thing would pan out. People are wondering, you know, because obviously I saw from the message that Boston got sent. Yeah, there was a line drawn in the sand. When you read the message, you'd have to ask Boston about, but I remember reading it like, damn, it's not this serious. It's really not. Like, if you just sat down and talked to me and asked me, like, the stuff that you think or feeling, there's, like, a lot of stuff that you're just, like, overdoing a little bit. To where it's like, you know, maybe I should be blocked just so I'm just not worried about the childish stuff. And instead of doing what all the other ones did, I'm just not going to bring it up. You know? No big deal. But with Chris Schmidt, I don't know what was said to him. And it's not like Chris said anything to me because, you know, Chris said, obviously, what any grown-up would. He's always like, I wouldn't let anybody pick my friends. He said, if Bolin blogged me, I would just go away. Same thing I'm doing. I'm out. I wanted to make this so some people were clear. Because say you were in Kenny's shed tomorrow and you haven't been around in a while, he said, what happened to Pesci? He would make it sound like, I got some fucking secret society of stalkers and we're all talking. All right, Jimmy, stalker number 1. What do you got? What do you got on Bolin? What are we doing on Bolin? You know what I mean? You know, meanwhile, after I saw when he wasn't reading my messages ever, like only reading half of them, I stopped messaging him like months ago. Usually if I bring him up, it's usually stuff how he should have handled me or stuff he thought about. But with Chris, I initially reached out to him and said, you know, even though me and you were cool as fuck, I know some people want to talk shit, but I'll tell you why you don't talk shit about that. See, the difference between, like what Rome put in the thing, Schmidt did sign a max deal with Bolin Services. According to his Bolin Services contract, he is not allowed to do Pesci Power Hour shows. Now, Chris hasn't reached out to me and said that, but I'm smart enough to know. See, I wouldn't be like Jake, be like, Schmidt, come on the show. Knowing that'd get him in trouble. I for starters smart enough to know that Chris and Kenny have had a 10+ year relationship. I haven't known Chris for a year. And even the first couple months, I didn't know I was talking to him when I was talking to him because he was under so many fake names before I knew who he was. You know what I mean? And it would be easy, people are like, oh, that's fucked up. If he doesn't ever come on my show again, it'd be easy to point the finger and talk shit. But I think, and like our president said, we should talk about some of the things that, he did well for me. I mean, this is a guy that was just as close to Kenny, anybody on a friendship level, donation aside. A guy that if there was shit going on that could affect Kenny, Schmidt wouldn't have played no part in shit like that. When me and Schmidt met in the beginning, I would show him some of the signs I would see because Kenny would say, he never took him serious. And as crazy as some of them sound, the way I remember showing Schmidt a few when we first started talking, and this is all Schmidt, we can probably dig up the message. I showed him a sign, and all Schmidt put back in the text was interesting. And I always said, Kenny, when I send you messages, I was going to send them to Schmidt because you'll just forget about them. Some of the shit I need to be vouched for. So in early going, I remember Schmidt was like a guy that I could have give messages across, or he usually knew what I was up to. So he would be able, he would tell Kenny, when people would say this or that, he was never a shit talker. People are like, oh, that's Bolin's blah, blah, blah. There's been a million things Schmidt could have probably told Bolin about. In the beginning, when Schmidt would talk to Bolin about things, those things we didn't think Kenny would take personal. Like Jake going live, out of all people. You know what I mean? Trivia question, what was me and Schmidt's first ever show together? People never remember this. Well, the first show I did with Schmidt, I didn't even know he was Schmidt until I don't know if it was the end or the day after because he came on the show as Dumb Fuck Down Under. The first show we did together, believe it or not, was with Jake, me, and Schmidt. So the first time I met Jake was the first time I met Schmidt physically on here. Obviously we talked in the chat. I didn't know who Jake was at all. Because he was kind of, he would say things in the chat, but it was like, the one side of Jake. I was there. You would have thought Mr. Rogers was in the goddamn chat. But it was Schmidt that made this, like, when he was doing the heavy donuts, got Jake on the show. It was a show I wasn't even supposed to be on. I remember I was taking the night off because I pretty much ended up, what's funny is I ended up losing my voice that night. But I remember me and Kenny just did WrestleMania and shit. So I was just kind of getting drained out a little bit myself because I wasn't used to doing podcasts and my voice was starting to fucking roll thin. And it was a few things were happening around then. But we did the show with Jake Echo. And I was the one that said, keep the echo. I remember they spent the first 10 minutes trying to change that. And this is before I barely knew Jake. Because you got to remember, he was always cool with Bolin. I remember when Bolin fake suspended me, Jake thought I did something wrong. Jake cut a promo on me. What was funny was it was on 5 a.m. in the morning. This is before people really watched him. Because you remember, Jake will tell you, even though he's been around shit, he's, this was the kickoff year. Get your feet wet more than just eating pickles in the bathroom and those type of videos. And the one-liners. You know what I mean? So he was kind of getting off. He just knew about the platforms for years. He's been around these platforms. He always said, well, I brought you to the dance. I pumped that into his head. Because I always want him to know that the shit that he did was, not forgotten. The problem was when I would remind him, he never forgot to where he would, he turned it into like a promo where it made it look like we were enemies. And I never rubbed anything into his face until he was talking to strangers, and he was making me out to be the big bad wolf, kid hater. I thought that was hilarious. But the people that then you got to go try, and then some of these people I was going to try to interact with. So then my first interaction is people are going to be like, well, we got this fucking kid hater who wouldn't give to Jake's goddamn hospital. Meanwhile, Jake called me a kid hater. All I said was I think we should raise money for you. You know what I mean? He busted my ball. Jake, I sent those packages because you got the videos of me at FedEx. Yeah, my dumb ass threw away the goddamn receipt because I'm an idiot. Didn't think I was going to need it. I'm not used to that. If my dad, my stepdad or real dad would have thought the neighbor had our package. Yeah, and I'm lazy. There's probably things I could have did. I know Frank told me there was some shit. But I said other things. I was like, I was upset about that. There's a lot of shit going on. It was a mic, and that was like free shit. It was a microphone. I wouldn't lie about toys. Why would I lie about toys, Jake? Toys? But we do have breaking news regarding Jake Husdon. But regarding Schmidt, I told Schmidt, I'm not going to make him make that choice. I don't expect him to drop a 10-year relationship over a guy he just met. I keep the door open. See, I think Schmidt probably got wind, probably was like, damn. He saw a quick Bolin block me. It was probably like, if Schmidt would have had probably some interaction with me, Bolin was probably ready to just block him in a blink of eye without even hearing his side. I took a minute to look at it from Schmidt's point of view. Whether the other party's wrong, there's a relationship there that I don't want to just say fuck you because that's what you'll say. And that's crazy that Kenny's able to just do that. Like, I was surprised. I was like, damn, I'm trying to think of shit I did. I've done some shit in the past where I could see somebody not screwing with me. But to him, nah. It wasn't like I fucking, yeah. I always followed your number one rule, be nice to all your guests. It's not my fault that I was so nice to them that they end up following me to where, shit, all of a sudden out of the blue, I just got hate. And that sticks with my reputation up here. Even if people didn't watch the show, I can't do that. That's why I did that show with Harry when I did it. Even though I wasn't really ready to do it when I did it. It was just to show people that I do what I want. It'd be one thing if this guy was causing real trouble, but there was no trouble being caused. I mean, and Sheriff Wydad Donald Lord could vouch for that. But the good news of the night regarding Jay Gecko. Our president, Theodore Long, has announced, on top of all the other things Jake has going on, and he does have a lot going on, Jake's getting bigger, badder than ever. He will be returning to the PWO from time to time to do shows with me. The fact of the matter was, before I had Teddy handle the contract things, I reached out to Jake. I got to give Jake a lot of credit for this. The fact that when he could, hate somebody or block somebody and then almost just forget about them, and it almost looks like it doesn't affect him. That's not easy to do. There's a lot of people I wish I could have did that to in the past. That was kind of a, asshole-ish thing but I admired that quality. Now, sometimes, I got to come clean about a couple things. When Jake would be an asshole at times, I would act like he shouldn't do that or whatever. But the fact of the matter was, I got a kick out of it. He knew it. When he blocked me the other day, he acted too quick. Act like I did nothing. I mean, what I did do was, there was arguments going on between him and other people in the chat. Nothing serious. It was over the whole Poochie thing when they were sifting through that whole debacle. I put a comment that I knew would fucking get Jake pissed because it was something about money and I'm out. I was not even being serious, but I know he saw the I'm out, and he's not the type to go. He'll say fuck you. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just gotta let it sit. It was like I ran to him crying. Jay, why'd you? I reached out to him like a grown-up yesterday. It was hard to reach out because I'm blocked everywhere. I had to reach out on some fucking, I don't even know how. But it wasn't the first time we talked. For instance, think about all the shit he said about me. When he asked for money the first thing he asked when he asked for money, I didn't say, you know what, dude? Take all the fucking, remember when he said I rub shit in? I just gave it to him. And said, good to hear from you. Stop in sometime. So when I reached out to him, I don't think I was upset. I think what upsetted me was, Jake was on my first ever show that I did on the PWO by myself running the equipment. You know what I mean? And I always wanted to keep him apart. Yeah, he does some different things himself, where I don't like, when he does the emotional streams, but those are things he likes to do. So, that's why I always said that's what that site was for. When I started going on his site, it was help him with the interviews. It turned into something. It got to his head a little bit, but I pumped that into his head because I wanted him to know how appreciative I was for those people. You know what I mean? It wasn't just one day he started saying that. I brought Pesci to the dance. No, in the beginning, I always knew I was fucking benefiting from some of these relationships. And it wasn't because Jake wasn't. Jake would sometimes get an interview, and that was it. Later, Jake was on new interviews, collecting interviews. Not a bad thing. It was just, he's not a big-time gamer. So usually when he meets somebody, he gets them on the show, like Red Sauce or whatever. And, that's how they communicate. The fact that, I met Rev Sauce and the shit that, Rev's done for me, that's helped me out a lot. And how the dominoes fell, that was a relationship through Jake. Now, I got Jake some relationships, but out of respect to him, like he said, next thing you know, he said, Pez, she rubs everything in the face. When he was doing the shows with what's-her-name, her problem was she tried to act like she was his best friend ever. Meanwhile, me and Jay got a relationship that goes back before we did the PWO thing. You know what I mean? When, Kenny he would try to get on Kenny's show and Kenny wouldn't have him on. He'd make these dumbass stipulations. And I used to say to Schmidt behind the scenes, and people can tell you this, I say I could do some things with Jake. He's funny sometimes. Like I said, the first question I ever asked him, who would he make Dolph Ziggler's manager? He said Michael Cole. I thought that was funny. The Chelsea Green powerbomb comment? Yeah. Because I was thinking Charlotte Flair, and he said Chelsea Green, who I didn't even fucking know was in the WWE. But I remember when he said that shit, see, those are the things that Kenny wouldn't have been able to bring out of him. Just because, Kenny's older. I knew how to kind of like play in Jake's window in the beginning, which brought him out to the PWO, even though he was known. But that's where he got to form his relationships. You know what I mean? Sometimes people let things go to their heads. He did, but it was for great fun. But he is reinstated. I reached out. I told him there's no reason for us to be enemies whatsoever. You know what I mean? Let's be real. You know, because especially when I see him live sometimes and I'm blocked. And the other day, a couple of people went in there and he was trying to figure out who's who, and he didn't know. And the person who answered, who they thought it was, they weren't even right. See, Jake, this is why you got to have me around. I was always able to tell you who's who, right? Because you don't like not knowing. That bothers you, even though you're trying to get 1 million some subs. You come in there tomorrow and your name's Ronald McDonald. Jake wants to know, who the fuck are you? Where'd you hear about me from? You know, when Jake before cut that promo on Bolin, that Bolin took personal, which I never understood that, but you know, it took Jake a lot of marbles to do that. Because you know, I would have loved it. I wish I could have did at that time. I wish I could have did that. The fact that he did that first, he did that, he lived with it. You know what I mean? He turned it into something. You know, you got to admire that quality about Jake. And so we will be doing things. I'll probably end this video. But when it comes to Schmidt, we probably won't see Schmidt. We might hear from him in the chat under a fake name. Like I said, Kenny thought I was honoring fakes because of a Schmidt account. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, bro, I can't follow your fakes around everywhere. And the thing is, it's not like they just are making, they bother me too. They followed us to Divine Tiffany's and Jacob's channel. You know, these are people that don't know the story. And it's hard explaining the level of sickness some of these trolls go through. But I'm not going to be that guy. You want to block me, that's your fault. But for the people watching this for the first time, I never did a thing to that man. And I've done some fucked up things. And the times when I went live, when he was live, still donated to his show, still had him on. Usually was getting more of a kick out of that. It was bothering him when he was Mr. I don't give a shit about that. This is all work. You know, I didn't have a podcast a few months ago. You know, he was mad when Jake was going on. But I would have never looked at it like competition. Because competition would have been a little bit more obvious on my part. I was always willing to work together. I enjoyed doing the clip show. Because those are, other than when Ben Amin went on a show and made some great points. And that was respectable because you could tell, you know, Kenny don't let people do that often. The fact that Ben was able to come in there. But we addressed everything. Trust me, I wish we could be cordial. But I like how he said the other day, I sent him when I sent him that donation the day after I got blocked, what he didn't read was the message I put. I put no hard feelings. He said to everybody, this is Pesci trying to make it look like we're still cool. No, it's not. That was me being no hard feelings. That's your problem. You always think I'm thinking, plotting, I'm the enemy. No, I always tried to be an assistant until I was pushed away, you know, bored, not myself anymore, people pointing it out. You know, the one day when I was playing the sound effects over there. There's things I want to do, it's just different shit. That's all. But he turned it into a rift. Same time, he's not a drug dealer. He's never been to prison. You know, any guy that's been to the joint, any guy that's done any kind of legitimate street hustling, not selling DVDs to people that show up at the wrestling match. I'm saying real hustling, where if you don't get no money that night, you don't get no money. No gringo, no tianto. Some people say, hey, dude, when you know, why was I, in the beginning, when I came on Ken's show, why was I honest about some things? Some people are like, yeah, you were too honest about some shit. Well, a lot of the shit I talked about was my past. You know, I've said things like, yeah, sure, I might make a living here and there off hustling. But why go into his, chat and try to make a make-believe person of him? I don't really have a problem with who I was. You know what I mean? It turned into some all right stories. But my first thing was, you go in there, you start lying. A couple months later, they turn that in and say, you're going to, man, you worked at blah, blah. You've been lying the whole goddamn time. As I said, I already been there twice. I live in a ghetto where like I said, I'm not like, I'm more of a forgotten guy. Like I said, if you're catching marlin, there's a lot of fish out there that you're going to pass up. And trust me, it's big game hunting where I'm at down there. What the cops are concerned. Shit I'm doing, like I said, I got a marijuana card that allows me to carry usually most of the weed I have on me. You know, when you have a past that involves law, I hid it so many years in my 20s. A lot of stuff I was just never able to be honest about, or why I did this, or so when I came on Kenny's, I just said, hey, you either like me or not. I mean, shit. I mean, Cornette's fucking racist, womanizer, blah, blah, blah. I think I'd rather be cool with the weed guy. Where now you look at what I went to prison for, it's almost, they got a fucking law about to be passed where it's recreation. Recreation. Where 15 years prior, they had a law set up that could really alter most people's lives. Like I said, it'd be one thing if you go to prison, you're a mechanic, a pilot, a welder, something that, a real ass trait that needs done. That way, say you go to prison a year. Even you get out and you got all those felonies. A guy that has a trait like mechanic and all that, those are the things that a guy that's doing hiring will be able to look past a felon. He's got a felony. Can he do what I need him to do? A mechanic, a welder, a guy that does, the hard parts of roof. But I hate when I lose my train of thought. You would almost blame it on the weed. But anyway, oh yeah, the weed. So I remember as I was going in and out of jail with the marijuana, I always just said to myself, well, every year it's becoming less and less of a thing. And we already know it's less dangerous than alcohol. We all know that. We all know 100 people out of 100 people. Do you want a drunk guy driving or a high guy driving? Trust me, the high will always win. I'm not saying you can't be fucking driving high and drive clowny. But dude, we all know the difference if we do both or have done both. I've done both at the same time. But I'm a 5-time. Never proud of it. But why make it sound like people should feel bad for a decision that you made comfortably? You know why. How the dominoes fell. We got a show coming up this week where I'm going to explain how marijuana was my guardian angel. That's how I looked at it. Some people, will look at a story like that, like this is the wildest shit I've ever heard. This dude is a fucking stoner piece of shit, felon, convict, loser. Which all those names are, worth calling me. That's what I said, Kenny, when I started doing all this computer shit, making those videos, networking with people, kind of like taking off. Don't forget who showed you backgrounds, Kenneth. He always said he was the king of podcasts, but I'm the one that showed you backgrounds. Backgrounds. But, Jake will be doing shows here. I used to always tell Schmidt, it's not because Schmidt's gone, but I used to always say I think I could do more with Jake than I can with Schmidt, only because, Schmidt's a great guy and everything. He's very smart and all that. But with Schmidt, you got to worry about him saying something dumb or racist. With Jake, if he says something dumb or racist, people could look past it because they think he doesn't know any better, which he does. I always say, if you watch his initial behaviors with new groups, you would think you were talking to goddamn Huckleberry Finn or some shit. But I reached out to him. I don't want people to think Jake reached out to me, came crawling back or anything. If anything, I came back, I don't want to say crawling, but I said, hey, what is the point of us being like a fake rift? You know what I mean? It'd be one thing if I caused some trouble. You just had a chick on your show the other day that was lying, trying to make all your old friends out to be guys that are making fun of you. Meanwhile, half the shit I ever did was to get you over. That's why people bring you up when I make those clips. That's so people remember those things. You know? And, even when you brought it up, it wasn't like he was like, okay or anything. He's just like, all right. He's got some other shit going on as well. He's got that Wrestling with the Future podcast. I hope that's legitimate. I don't really know the details. I just hope there's no fucking fake gravestones or anything. But what was funny about that whole thing was if what Jake says is true, is the guy he's going into business with, which would make sense if this is how these dominoes fall. We'll see what happens. Heroes on the show one day, I think I messaged Jake with, Jake, funny that you just got rid of the chick that, man, yeah, this girl's back to where you were fucking talking shit to me. That's why I was like, do we even know what's going on anymore? But there won't be no rift. There's no problem me and Schmidt. Forbidden doors open like Mr. Longset. We'll bring him back. He can always come back. People are like, well, aren't you a little surprised or, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm smart enough to know, I think if it was me, take the Bolin equation out, just somebody I've known like he's known, and the way, he's, they're friends. Regardless of, what happens. Maybe Kenny doesn't value his friendship as much as he should, like I always said. But that was always saying, I remember, true story, I'll end with this. The day Kenny got his bat signed by whatchamacallit, I always said, people always say, why would you do with the gifts? Well, I always said with the donations, I even though I was happy with helping people from Philly, I always wanted the money to go to Kenny. That's why when the stalkers would message me in the very beginning, when they would message me something before I knew what was what, when I'm trying to sift through the ashes, before everything was out, I'd always say the things that they would put in the messages were nothing compared to shit I've done at one point, and I would message them back something I did that was much worse. You know what I mean? There's nothing you could say, like I always tell people. Usually in the convict world, if a guy's got 5 felonies and the guy across from him's got 0, and you're trying to tell me that this guy across from me is some super bad dude, and all he's ever done was get through society, felony-free, no prison, it's going to be hard for me to see this guy as being a threat bad dude. If my final assessment of Bolin is, he's definitely a feelings guy, where he lets his feelings kind of beat him in a way to where he thinks there's a lot more against him than there is, where he's got a pretty laid back fan base that's able to look past him, talking shit. I always was. It wasn't until like, recently when it's just when you hear it come out, you would just think that like, I'm garbage. It's just like, damn. I'm trying to like see a scenario where how would I have handled that? I would have got this guy would have been close. You'd been closer. I'm like, all right. What do you think, Pesh? He never even gave. It's like he never ever gave me a chance to tell my side tell me a situation where I told him my side and I was lying. One time he said I lied to him was when I said about the JJ TV. Meanwhile, JJ knew I didn't send that TV when I said that to Kenny. I talked to Harwood before the show. Said I'm going to bring it up there the next day. We didn't know it was going to be 270. I made videos of me at FedEx. When Kenny asked me if I sent TV, at that point, I thought it was only going to be 117. I was prepared to spend 117. Even Kenny, he won't spend that amount. Oh, I'll spend that. Even though there's TVs that I was ready to pay that because you said it would, and I already sent him a small TV. But because of that, me saying that, and it was only because, I was painted the liar. When I said that shit to the Fox 8 to get on the news. I was a nobody then. He goes, that's not working. That's just lying. What? That is definitely work. They believed me. There's work involved there. You know what I mean? And at least with wrestling, even if you are a great promo, and even if you are working people, even the people that are loving it still know probably what you're saying is not true. When it came to me in that goddamn zoo, they were buying it. Globally. The problem was they were playing, I don't know why they played chunks of my shit. I wish I had the footage from that. Now, if they would have played the actual me, like, kind of like going into detail, that would have been a story. And they wanted, another place wanted me to come do a story with them, but I had to do some driving. It wasn't worth, there was no money involved. I'm like, so let me get started. I just drive out here, nah. Too much, that was too long. I need, like, let me get a hotel or something, or like a Dixie. But if you look at some of my old videos, I used to hint that there was going to be a time I'd go solo, but a lot of the reasons I made those videos was kind of like playing along. You know what I mean? It was first time I ever did videos. Kenny was making it sound like I was starting at the rival. But in a nutshell, his feelings have kind of forced, me out of his life to where the person that you'll probably get, things I did and, dealt with, not many people, deal with that. But like we always say, we don't cry over spilled milk, Ken. We just clean it up. What you did is nowhere near as bad as the girl that told on me, people that have robbed me before, or done things in that matter. A lot of the stuff you would say, I wasn't really too mad about because a lot of people had communication with me where, they knew I wasn't a threat like it was painted out to be. A guy like Brian Danielson, sorry, Brian Danielson, that's a threat. Anybody that had a drop of a dime could turn on his best friend. And Brian, it's not like, you were the prom king. And it's not a bad thing. I had the same issues. Some people have issues that not everybody knows how to be around them. JJ found a way to be around you. When sometimes you could throw people through a loop. I remember before I knew Frank, Brian helped me on Twitch before I even knew his story. JJ hooked me up with him. Yeah, he knows shit. But he's not the teacher Frank was. What makes Frank so special is Frank was able to teach me with me having certain irritants. Sometimes I'd let something kind of just where I just, I'm like a want now guy. Sometimes when I see the guy showing me he's struggling, it might get me irritated. People ask me to do stuff while I'm live, and then I can't figure it out. For some reason, I'll just start talking like I'm short, like I'm kind of pissed off. But yeah, that was one of the, the Frank Kirsch relationship was kind of out of the blue. He was always a nice guy in Kenny's chat. I didn't really know who he was. I wasn't friends with people on Facebook. I remember before I met Frank, I thought he was a younger dude because I remember I clicked on a couple pictures of his and I didn't see the picture of him and his family. I just saw some like weird pics he had up. It almost looked like that wasn't a whole together Facebook. And then when we met each other on Zoom for the first time, I forgot what our first meeting was over, but I saw he was older. And I remember I said something to him. I was like, yeah, he made a comment where I was like, what kind of younger dudes don't talk like this? And I remember I thought I was about to meet a young dude and Frank was an older guy. And then here's two guys that are, complete opposites, me and Frank. We might like, wrestling, we have some similarities. I'd be able to be in, like, if I was out of town, I could go out of town with a guy like Frank and have fun and not be bored. There's some guys you go out of town with. Frank's kind of like when I started fucking around with a lot of these streams, even though he didn't have the intentions to podcast, he's a computer guy, so he learned a lot. He's a picker-upper. He would try to communicate things to me in a manner where I'd be able to understand it. And I'm trying to think, obviously I probably would have found a way to get to this point somehow. But when I got done at Kenny's, one thing I remember was I told people, you hear it on the camera all the time, hey, I'm ready to do the podcast. That's not the question. I'm ready to do all that shit. I need to learn this computer side. This can't be something where, like me and Roman, DJ Eli Roman, when he was living up here, I wanted him to be like the sound guy and do all that shit. I thought maybe I could just talk. You know what I mean? But when I started diving into what these computers do nowadays, because I never had a PC, and never really had a buddy that had it, kind of would just see him off in the far. You'd be like, damn, you could tell they were starting to gain a little. But I was just always a console guy. But also didn't realize all the shit you could hook up to a PC and the shit that they could do that your console couldn't. And when I got introduced to streaming, it was like with Kenny, I always knew what a podcast was, Kenny. I always told Kenny, Twitch was the destination. It just wasn't set up. The fact that shit blew up on his channel a little bit to where, an audience, part of his audience migrated, I was kind of shocked about that. Because I always said he did a show when I first started watching him, he's a lefty. So I figured a lot of the people that watch him probably are lefties. And it's not that I'm a voter of any kind. But guys like that I always just bump heads with. If I ever took a survey of the last 5 guys I argued with, just out of a little shits and giggles, I would ask them after I found out this year from Kenny, what it all means. Because I didn't know what it meant. I always thought Republican was a word used to describe the people in Star Wars. I always said Democrat sounds like a goddamn Bible creature. Like a Democrat. Sounds like something you're fighting about, you know what I mean? I didn't know you could fucking register to be these fucking things. I was a realist. I was living in a life where the president's share decision might be affecting me somewhere, But I'm, like I said, unfortunately, because of the choices I made, I had to live in it now. You know, I don't have some Fortune 500 stash somewhere. You know, usually a day-by-day guy. Enough to get by. Enough to not have to borrow. You know what I mean? But Mr. Money Savior of the Year, no, I am not that. But, yeah, so I think did I cover everything? Yeah, so Schmidt, we appreciate all the hours you spent. You know, we know one day you'll be back. You know, Schmidt will tell you he's not gone. But I know Kenny. Kenny'd be quick to, like he was, like he said to Boston. Boston's been his fan of him for 10 years. Now, somebody's becoming a problem is one thing. The guys that are being painted as this problem are really the guys you could actually go to get an honest perspective from. But that's why I was surprised after everything I did. It's almost like your trust didn't get stronger. You just got questioned more. Whether some of it was work, play, show, or whatever. Some of that stuff, you know, legitimately was bugging him. And sometimes I'd even tell him off air things he would never bring up. I'd be like, man, how come when you're bust my balls sometimes when you overdo it, I don't say anything. I can't just get a couple in. I'm not getting anything in malicious. You know what I mean? I'm not killing your rhythm. You know, I always said you don't hide none. Whether that guy thinks he's hiding something or hiding, he's not a bad guy. I always said, look, from a criminal to everybody out there, he is not a criminal. Like when his son said, if anything, he's a dumb one, meaning he's not even doing anything wrong. You know what I mean? It's his problem that he's made this world where he has trolls that take shots at him and make it look like he's doing something wrong when the guy's not doing anything wrong. I always wondered, Kenny, did you know the super chats you could keep? You know, I used to always tell him, me and Mountain Time used to always tell him, you could keep our money. That's meant for you. That's meant for the guy that's running the stream. That's the least you could do. You weren't the first guy I gave that to. You were the first guy that took the offer to come on the show. And I think why I made it on his first was because I actually knew a lot about the old version. And I was, you know, obviously picked up the new part of the show. It didn't take me long. You know. But there's times I'd be on there and there'd be things I'd want to bring up, you know, or touch certain details. It's almost like once he was comfortable with me and he saw that even when he does do A, B, or C, it doesn't bother me, even though it would bother most. Same with Schmidt. You know, we don't let dumb shit bother us. Comments, whatever. We're not going to take shit buttered. But yeah, that's, you know, I messaged Bob. You know, he almost did not know right away. You know, but like he said, he's not one that's going to take part in the blah, blah, blah. But I'm also not going to, hey, come say hi or blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, Bob was here. I know for probably a while, you know, Schmidt and Bob will probably have to, well, Bob can probably do whatever he wants. If I was Bob, I'd be like, what? Hey, buddy, I should be allowed to come over to your house dressed as cornet and hit you over the head with a tennis racket a couple times. You know, smartest thing he did, it was way too long, was putting him in charge of comments in, you know, the chat. You know, because that show yesterday was, you know, thank God for Bob. He was able to address those comments. You know, I was watching the Honky Tonk show. I wasn't much of a Honky Tonk guy. But like you said, he probably would have made more money if he didn't cut me off. You know what I mean? And he made a big deal about it the other day. I would have sent just a couple bucks for watching. You know what I mean? I didn't have no questions for Honky. I didn't want to meet him. And there was one guy I would have wanted to do a show with out of Kenny's crew. It would have been Lawler, you know, Dutch Mantel. Is that the guy that was with Jack Swagger? You know, someone like that. Or even Russo. You know, Russo, it's like, he's not really a funny guy. You know, he's a guy that, you know, I wouldn't mind having around. I like hearing him talk and complain about shit. But, you know, I would like a guest like, you know, what you kind of know about. You know, like I don't, you know, when I look at Vince from the outside, it's like, yeah, you do deserve credit for what you did. You get handed a lot of shit. You had a title that a lot of people dream of that. But sometimes he makes it sound like if it wasn't for him, you know, a lot of that shit would happen. I always said, as long as Austin became Austin, sure, you might have gave him a promo here and there. But I think we all know that Austin and Vince ran that show. When I say Vince, I mean McMahon. Yeah, Russo definitely played a part. But I doubt there was too many I'm going to put my foot down moments. And when you're Russo working with a guy like Steve, he probably thought, maybe that was something I wrote. You know, I always thought Russo overvalued his value. You know, you got to know why Arn and them were mad about whatchamacallit. You know, I didn't take it personal when you let Dave Oracat become world title. You know, I didn't let it eat me away. But those that, you know, didn't forgive or forget, or the wrestlers that held shit like that to a high degree. And I've heard like wrestlers, I think were in the Arn Anderson type guys that were like, that was the night our business died or something. Not meaning that's when it all went downhill. It was obviously that Bischoff put them in a financial status. And between creative, financially, the guys they brought in, the directions they went with some of those guys that they thought they were, like Brian Adams, never supposed to be in the NWL. Virgil and the $1 Million Man. You brought $1 Million Man in and he wasn't even a talker right away. You pinned him with the Steiners later on. Maybe that should have been done right away. And we can't bring him in babyface either. We got to keep DiBiase heel. Because why did we pay this guy to come? Where is there like this, you know, videos? Maybe there was somewhere where he was a good guy, but the $1 Million Man heel, walking out with Virgil, walking out with guys, the belt. That's the thing. You know, that's the heel thing. You know, you've heard Conan say it. You can't just become a heel overnight sometimes. You know, maybe a guy like CM Punk would have the capability of possibly doing that, you know, turning heel overnight, get him in a situation. But if you've never been one, you want to be able to tell a story. You look like the Young Bucks when they were turning heel last year, and they were super kicking Alex Marvez. Like they were super kicking the guys in the back. You know, Young Bucks, like I said, I got nothing against their actual matches. Like I said, when this company took off, they were, you know, God bless them for doing this. You know, this is a great quality. Probably a lot of people who work with them get respect for this. Instead of putting themselves over, they tried to put Private Party over. But you gotta know that Private Party wasn't beating you guys. What might have got him over with like a little core of your offense, a core of your audience, but most of your audience knows that's what you guys do. You're going to put those kind of guys over because you think about it in your aspect. But I remember before I knew what BTE was, I started watching BTE and I saw big, you know, all the momentum these guys had in Japan. And I know it's a way different market. way different. But when you saw how they were pumping merch, how they had a hustle going on, and the fact that they had to fly, I couldn't do that 14-hour flying. I mean, there might be a dollar amount that would get me to try it. But, you know, for the most part, these guys were on planes, going to Tokyo, doing this. But they were like, made a world for themselves over there. It really involved money. To where they gained enough momentum no matter what you want to say. You know, Kim, Cody, you know, and help others, but him and Cody were initially able to get those negotiations started with Tony Khan. You know, and Kenny Omega. And you looked at the story was much better than when they kicked off, how they kind of carried that through. The Young Bucks tried to put Private Party over, and there was just nothing putting Private Party over. You know what I mean? And you guys were new to a television audience. We get it, that the audience, the core, the people probably in stands, they knew who you were. They knew about BT. I did not. I found it a little bit later. And then when I found it, I was like, okay. You know, I started watching them because that's the greatest show in the world. But when you watch the beginning ones, it's kind of interesting to see, you know, what led up to. And then when you look at shit now, you would think some of those guys, you know, he did Cody had obviously bigger bunch of fans, but, you know, he did that himself. Omega, I don't want to say he's not over, but why can't they pull a consistent 1.2, 1.3? You know, why is the... See, I don't shit on the ratings that much because I always remember hearing the Young Bucks say before ratings were even a combo. You know what I mean? Man, I gotta say, more high percentage of our fans probably don't have cable. Probably stream everything. You know, probably reach out to get our pay-per-view. But kind of cable slowly on the way out the door. You know what I mean? Or people are DVRing it. You know, there's ways to go around it. And when you think about the commercials, sometimes it's a lot easier to watch wrestling when you can fast forward through the commercials. But we got an hour and 22 minutes in this video. I'm going to release it. Yeah, like I said, it's crazy how everything that's happened this month somehow, like when I've been blocked by Jake, I've been blocked by Bolin, I've been yelled at by A, I've been like that, been yelled at by B, I've been yelled at by C. Meanwhile, I haven't done anything. So, the smarter marks will prevail in this. Kenneth, if you ever do see this video, trust me when I say I was more, I definitely wasn't the problem. You know what I mean? But I'm also not gonna pull what all the other ones did. But I'm glad I got to say all this shit. You know, because there was a couple people, not, you know, a lot of people know what happened, but some people were like, a few people were like, they thought there was a story missing or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then when you hear Kenny say it, it's like Kenny almost starts leaving out things where he's like, like I said, make me out like I started this secret society of fucking stalkers and baboons and shit. And I'm highlighting comments like, get your Bolin fucking comment, highlight it. Usually it's all the same old guys that we don't even want to hear from. Or somebody's commenting on something he said about me. You know what I mean? It definitely wasn't like, she goes, yeah, so I thought they were highlighting the fake Kenny Bolin. They were highlighting the fake Kenny Bolin. Okay, you know how many times your goddamn name has been fucking used? And if you look at the comments, you should know that Schmidt. And you know what he said eventually when Schmidt and a couple of people reached out to him and said, Schmidt, oh, I knew it was Schmidt, and then changed his tune. Okay, so the last, you were just texting Boston saying, I saw you guys highlighting the fake Kenny Bolin's comments. Yeah, it was Schmidt Bolin. What do the comments say that are throwing, that the comments aren't even nothing about you either? It's like, Pepsi don't block people. Well, just randomly. Especially after I just, rekindled the relationship. And if there was some danger, run Forrest run. Like I said, Brian Danielson, that's dangerous. I don't know. As I said, when I see him come in, I just try to be like, hey, I don't need him calling the FTA or the fucking Jim Craig or the blah, blah, blah. If he did his friend like that, close friend, what do you do a guy with that you're not even friends with? Acquaintances. You know what I mean? All the time he's on my shows because Jake sent him a link to Star Prompts. We were always Team JJ. That wasn't a question. Brian's another one. He'll let his feelings beat you. He'll let you know it. I feel bad for DJ Eric. He'll bounce back. Sometimes you gotta, those that, if these were like some brain scholar, motherfucking smartest guys you ever, if this was Frank Hurst doing some shit like this, that'd be some shit to cry over. I said to myself, did I come to the bowling alley to meet Frank? Because a lot of these skills, even if, let's just say after the last day, Kenny retired, whatever, without the computer skills and a lot of shit he taught me and how to look at certain things, I really wouldn't even, when I left Kenny's show, I didn't know how to, even if people did want to watch me, there was no way to, there's a lot involved. And I wanted to learn that. That's why I told people, for me, year one isn't about, like, when people are talking about followers and shit. Yeah, sure, you want to get those. But I like the relationships, I think, more. Meaning, yeah, you get a follow, thanks. But I'm hoping to get to talk to that follow to a certain degree to where it ends up being a guy like Frank or Eve or Schmidt. Guys that you were friends with or did shows with. Me and Schmidt did a lot of hours together. You know what I mean? But at the same time, he lives 10 minutes from Kenny. Lifetime relationship. He probably made the right decision. He should probably, because he probably knew Kenny was probably ready to block him. Boom. You don't want to. He was ready to do it to Boston. I haven't talked to Arwood. I don't know if I'm blocked, but Arwood had 19 Facebook accounts because, we know how those kids end up in Facebook jail and all this shit because fighting their feelings. Well, it's fine. I mean, you think JJ, the world's falling down. Well, buddy, you just got to start being a man more and tell people what's really on your mind. When I was going to prison, you're not even going to jail. You know what I mean? Everything that you have a job. You have food. And you have a friend. And you have friends. I helped them out a bunch of times. When JJ started kicking off the memes for real, yeah, he made a bunch of memes, don't get me wrong. But it was me that kind of was like, this guy puts a lot of time in. I started giving him money. Hey, here's a couple bald kid this, because I always thought his time was worth something. And I understand Kenny not paying him because that's just how Kenny is. You know what I mean? I always knew what I was getting myself into. I just thought there would come a point where I guess more trust be put in me. It'd be like, yo, let me see what he has. I know people around here that if something happens or if somebody says something about me, before any decision is decided, they come hear my side. You know? But that is that. So for those of you wondering, you know, people trashing Schmidt or whatever, yeah, he deserves a... I could probably make some poke fun comments. But let's not forget the good he did. You know, I've said things to him that he could easily ram back to Kenny. Easily. That's why I said I don't put shit out there like that. That's why when people say, hey, can you trust Schmidt? Well, what you don't realize is, you know, hey, it's been tested. As I said, it's like people are, when I started the PWO thing, you know, me and Schmidt were already dealing with each other. I've had conversations with him. There's things I told him. A lot of stuff we were on the same page about. You know, there was things I said, you know, I was like, well, it's obvious I got to go solo. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be able to, you know, we're just two different guys. I wouldn't be able to do the marathon cash grab all night. You know what I mean? And that's not me trying to sound cool or anything. That's just, there's just more to do. It'd be one thing if you knew how to slip it in properly, which he had the type of fan base that was, you know, was patient with that. You know what I mean? That's what I said. Every day I'd come there just to watch. I'd be getting screamed at. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, nothing severe has happened. No danger. You know, there's a new thought, or I'm this, or blah, blah, blah. I always said, I could have let my feelings literally eat me away. But I decided to take this experience as a strengthening exercise. You know, because usually I would have problems in the past when my felon side would come out and I would start talking shit, or, you know, talking ways not businesslike. But yeah, we will, you know, you'd say, oh, could this ever be fixed? Well, I'm not going to do what Mountain Timer did. You know, God bless Mountain Timer. Mountain Timer probably did a little bit more than I did to get blocked. That's for sure. But he's not blocked anymore. You know, I'm not going to throw Kenny $100 go, look, man. If you don't remember, like, I'm more shocked that, bro, do you remember anything that's happened over the last couple months? I was just treated like a goddamn stranger. You know what I mean? I wasn't treated like a guy that, you know, honored everything he ever said he was going to do. And was willing to work with people even when I was given reasons where I was like, stuff was said about me or behind scenes or whatever when I'm supposedly at work, where I just wouldn't say anything bad. You know what I mean? Part of me said the bigger picture is the relationships. If you could show these people that you could take a verbal lashing like that and not let it bother you, you know, that go a long way. You know what I mean? Even though it's given the reason to be cheap or be petty, I never was. Like I said, usually when you hear Ken go, well, I don't think Pesci's ever going to be back in here again. Well, the first thing I would do is donate, because I always said, well, I'm not going to let you beat me, because he would turn it into, hell, he's not donating. He said I can never get him mad. I got him mad. Well, I'll tell you, yeah, you never really said, sometimes you could get me frustrated. But my true test is when stream ends, am I still eating at it? And usually by the next day, I wasn't eating at something Kenny said. Because there's much more things worse I've heard. This is minor shit. You knew what you were doing. There's no secrets here. You know what I mean? Remember what he said. I can't believe the stuff that you recite. Now, that was day one. 107 days later, if the guy that you said you can't believe the shit he could recite then, when you guys didn't even know each other, what do you think he knows now? And not in a bad way, but to where, hey, maybe you could give him a chance to hear what he has to say, or if I say, hey, you're just doing this because of that, instead of call me A, B, and C, maybe hear it out. There might be some some truth there. I think that's where we're going to leave it tonight. I know I said that 9 times, but this is kind of a big deal. Because if you guys watch, over the next couple of weeks or whatever, people will pop in there and probably bring me up here and there. And the people that didn't get to catch the videos like this, they probably think I'm out there with goddamn Clifford the Big Red Dog and Kenny Stalkers, and we're just like we're just having like a parade. We have like book meetings. And people said some things in the chat. Sure, Ken, it's not like usually there's a reason behind it. You can't be a heel like you are sometimes and then not expect somebody to say something crazy. I'd show some people a show, they didn't even know what they were seeing. People would come up to me and I'd tell them, well, he claims that's a work. Some people that I know don't know, they don't know wrestling. But, so everybody knows I'm not the bad guy. Don't give Schmidt a hard time. You know what I mean? Because Kenny wouldn't have left the door open for Schmidt. He'd be like, oh, here's with passion. You're out of here. Good relationship like that. Schmidt was probably like, I'm not really ready to end my relationship with Bolin. He's smart enough to know that I'm not gonna take it personal. I'm smart enough to know why the decision was made. I just thought it was clownish of him to say when we didn't think something like this was gonna happen. He was like, well, I would never let somebody blah blah blah. Ultimatums to me. You can't say that and then fucking, not that he ever admitted to this. I could just sense it. Like I said, Ken, sometimes I'm not trying to tell you to do your podcast. When you go to jail or sell cars or you're in the hustling game, the one thing I had to learn to do is be some type of judge of character. Usually I'm getting a feel of you before you're ever even maybe getting a feel of me, depending the scenario. There's certain things that you could possibly say in the first 20 words of us meeting that'll tell me everything I need to know. Sometimes not. You know what I mean? It's like with the circus. They throw the Ringling Brother guy in there. Sometimes the bear could be a little, but for the most part, he knows how to contain that bear. You know what I mean? But the rumor that I harbor the block, no, there's like 2-3 people. Come in my chat anytime, you can check for yourselves. The people that you think are on his blog list, well, it's because they blocked him. And that's, Rome, Eve. We don't count Jake. But there's a couple others. You know, and they didn't no ill will. Some of those people, no ill will. They usually don't say anything about the scenario unless they hear their names. You know, Rome's a good guy. We've had him on my show many times. I've never had a problem with him. I've never heard something mean come out of his mouth. You know what I mean? That's why I made him the president. You know how that happened? It was a pretty quick transition, especially when he was going to go by Theodore Long. You know what I mean? So we'll be doing more shit in the future. I'm trying to think, do I got to hit any other kind? Because this will be the last time I talk about it. Like I said, we're going with the same. We're not doing the Bolin round. Oh, Pesci's hanging out with my, like all the shit we've been through. You're going to tell people I chose stalkers. Why don't you just tell the story of what happened? You know, it probably was the wrong time to do the show with him, but at the same time, a month and a half ago, you were cool with him. You know, even when you guys did initially block, I wasn't asked to block anybody. He just said people went their separate ways. All of a sudden, some other, you know, beef flickered up. And just because he's around some of these people, he's got to be the, you know, this guy's just bringing you problems. Like I said, sometimes Harry could say some smart ass shit. But dangerous? No. He's just another Kenny. Sometimes they let their feelings beat them at times. You're going to remember that time that their feelings beat them. You know, I've had my feelings beat me a few times, not in the manners they do. But, yeah. A couple times I've let the old feelings make that comment I really don't want to go to. But, folks, hour and 42 minutes. Now, a majority of the people that watch my show, you know, the Outlaws, you know, I'm not lying about this shit. And everything I pretty much say can be vouched for by people you know would have no sense of lying. Like I said, we're not happy about what happened. I wasn't too thrilled because rarely, like I say, you not do something like with Jake and then get just kind of like labeled this goddamn piece of shit nothing. But until we meet again.
Kenny. Just to let you know where I'm from, if a guy like me was working you, we would never tell you if we were or not. If you asked me if I was a worker, even if I disagreed with you saying I wasn't, well, the rest is history, Kenneth. I say no more. Worker. I'm unemployed, bud.